A lot of people think they are looking for love. But psychologically, many people are actually looking for familiarity. And this is one of the most devastating consequences of narcissistic abuse and toxic childhood environments. Because when your nervous system was shaped in chaos, unpredictability starts feeling like chemistry. Hypervigilance starts feeling like attraction. Emotional instability starts feeling like passion. And suddenly, a safe relationship feels wrong. Not because it is unhealthy, but because your body was trained to survive danger, not receive safety. Welcome back to Mind Architect Narcissistic Healing. Today we are going to talk about something that trauma survivors often misunderstand about themselves. Why fight, flight, freeze, and fawn responses can make healthy love feel emotionally unfamiliar. And why so many survivors unconsciously recreate emotional chaos without realizing it. This is not weakness. This is neurobiology. And understanding this may completely change the way you see your relationships. A child who grows up with emotionally unstable, narcissistic, emotionally unavailable, or psychologically controlling parents does not simply develop low self-esteem. That explanation is far too simplistic. What actually happens is much deeper. The nervous system begins adapting to survival. Research from Harvard Medical School, Stanford Interpersonal Neurobiology, UCLA Stress and Resilience Studies, and the Harvard Center on the Developing Child repeatedly shows that chronic relational stress changes how the brain and body process safety, threat, attachment, and emotional regulation. The body learns patterns long before the mind can explain them. So if love was mixed with fear, attention with criticism, closeness with unpredictability, your nervous system may begin associating emotional activation with connection itself. And this is where trauma responses are born. Fight becomes emotional defensiveness, anger, controlling behavior, or reactivity. Flight becomes emotional avoidance, disappearing, distancing yourself when intimacy becomes real. Freeze becomes emotional numbness, confusion, paralysis, dissociation, inability to leave toxic situations even when you consciously know they are harmful. And fawn, one of the most misunderstood trauma responses, becomes chronic people-pleasing, over-explaining, oversharing, abandoning your own boundaries to maintain emotional safety. This is why so many survivors of narcissistic abuse say things like, "I know this relationship is unhealthy, but I cannot detach." Because trauma is not stored only as memory. It is stored as nervous system conditioning. The body becomes addicted to emotional unpredictability because unpredictability became normalized during development. And here is the painful paradox: when survivors finally meet emotionally safe people, the relationship can initially feel emotionally flat, boring, or even suspicious. Why? Because calmness does not activate the same survival chemistry. The nervous system mistakes peace for emotional absence. This is one of the reasons trauma survivors often unconsciously return to narcissistic dynamics. Not because they consciously want pain, but because the nervous system seeks familiar emotional architecture. And narcissistic individuals often know exactly how to stimulate these trauma patterns. The idealization phase creates dopamine spikes. Intermittent affection creates addictive attachment cycles. Emotional withdrawal activates abandonment wounds. Hoovering reactivates hope. This is not just emotional manipulation. It is physiological conditioning. And this is why healing cannot happen only through positive thinking. You cannot intellectually logic your nervous system out of survival mode. Healing requires nervous system retraining. So let us talk about one simple trauma-informed exercise you can begin using today. The next time you feel intense emotional urgency in a relationship, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this connection creating safety or activation? Then place one hand on your chest and one on your stomach. Slow your breathing down. And instead of immediately analyzing the other person, begin observing your body. Do you feel tightness? Panic? Hypervigilance? Fear of abandonment? Pressure to over-explain? Urgency to fix the relationship immediately? This moment matters. Because healing begins when you stop confusing emotional activation with emotional intimacy. One of the most powerful shifts in trauma recovery is learning that safety may initially feel unfamiliar. But unfamiliar does not mean unhealthy. In fact, for many survivors, peace itself becomes the new emotional frontier. And this is where real healing starts. Not when you stop feeling emotions, but when your nervous system no longer mistakes suffering for love. The truth is, unconditional self-love is not self-obsession. It is the moment you stop abandoning yourself in order to maintain attachment. And that changes everything. If this video resonated with you, join at Mind Architect, Narcissistic Healing for Deeper Trauma-Informed Psychology, Narcissistic Abuse Recovery, Nervous System Healing, Attachment Science, and practical exercises grounded in neuroscience and clinical psychology. Because healing is not about becoming someone else. It is about finally becoming safe within yourself.